Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing a couple of weeks late, but I'm doing the mid-year book freakout tag. This is not a new tag on BookTube by any means. It's been on here for a long time. So we're just going to talk about some of my favorite books of this year that I've read so far, some of my disappointments, and some books that I'm really looking forward to reading for the second half of the year. So the first question or top category is the best book that you've read so far this year. For that, my pick is Teeth in the Mist by Don Kurtagich. This is a horror supernatural book it's set in two different timelines. It's set in the present day with our main character Zoe, whose dad went to visit this house, and when he came back he had completely lost his mind. He couldn't remember who his family was, he couldn't really function, and so he was sent to live in this like mental institution. And so Zoe is deciding to go back to the house to figure out what happened. And then an alternate sections is told in 1851, I believe. I just looked, with our main character Roan, whose father has just died and basically willed his daughter to this doctor at the same house. So it takes place in both timelines. It's at the same house, except in 1851 it's Roan going to live at the house and all of the things that unfold. And then in the present day with Zoe, no one actually lives there, but she's like trying to figure out what happened to her dad. So many things happen in this book that completely shocked me. There were so many twists. The ending blew my mind. I cannot believe that everything was connected like that. There are pictures in here. There's text messages. There's like ghost messages. You know, there's told with like notes, words written like on the wall. It even has like this weird blackout pages. I mean, I love Dawn Kurtagich. She's quickly becoming one of my favorite authors of all time. This is by far my favorite of her books, and I highly recommend it if you love creepy, atmospheric horror novels with some supernatural elements. Highly recommend this. Next category is the best sequel you've read so far this year. For that one, I chose Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. This is the sequel to Children of Blood and Bone. And I believe I'm actually in the unpopular opinion that I preferred the sequel to the first book. And I can completely understand why people did not like this book. Yes, there were instances where the characters made me so angry that I wanted to put the book down, but I also was intermingled with moments that made me cry and that broke my heart, that made me happy, that had me cheering for our main characters. I love this book. I thought it did war and like the sacrifices that you make during war and loss. I thought it did that really well. The next category is a new release that you want to read but haven't gotten to yet. I have a couple on my list. The first one is The Guest List by Lisa Foley. This is a thriller that I don't really know much about, except I think it takes place on an island. And I've recently this year really dived into thrillers and horror novels, so I'm very excited about this one. And the second book that I'm really wanting to get to is A Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. Again, this is a thriller slash horror novel. I'm not entirely sure. I know that has to do with vampires. And from what I've heard, there are some very graphic, like creepy horror scenes. Excuse me. There are some very graphic, like creepy horror scenes, and I'm very excited to read this one. The fourth question or category is your most anticipated releases for the second half of the year. I don't tend to keep up with releases that are coming out. I'm not very good at it. I don't really know how to find them, but there are a couple that are coming out at the end of this month that I'm very excited about. The first one is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. I recently read Lock Every Door, absolutely loved it, and Home Before Dark I believe is categorized as more horror than thriller. I could be wrong, but I know it's about a haunted house and I'm very excited about it. The second book that I'm really excited about is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and this is also a gothic horror novel, and I haven't read any gothic horror and I'm very excited about it. It sounds very interesting, and that's pretty much all I know about it, but I want to read it. The fifth category question is your biggest disappointment of the year. Sadly, I have two on this list. The first one I have is Into the Water by Paula Hawkins. This is her second book, I believe. Her first one was Girl on a Train, and I really enjoyed that. Of course, it wasn't my favorite book. I read it in the aftermath of Gone Girl several years ago, and it was one that was super popular because it was kind of compared to Gone Girl, and I enjoyed it. I really did. So I was looking forward to Into the Water, and because it was her second book, I thought it could only get better, and unfortunately it just fell flat for me. I didn't connect with any of the characters. I thought the mystery was just kind of meh, and I didn't really care enough for any of the plot twists to really matter. So I gave this one 2 stars. And the second one I have on this list is Voyager by Diana Gabaldon. This is the third book in the Outlander series, and I am very sad to say I was very disappointed in this book. Outlander was a 4.55 stars for me. Absolutely loved it. The second book, I gave it 3 stars, but I really enjoyed it, and I felt like it was going in a direction that I was very interested in. And then we got to Voyager. After the first 1 to maybe 200 pages, I was so bored out of my mind. The only reason I kept reading it was because I thought it was going to get better. I was expecting it to get better, but I was just so bored. I don't know if I'm going to continue this series. I do own book 4, so I may give it a try before I completely give up on the series. However, I don't expect to be buying any of the other books anytime soon. Alright, and number 6 is the biggest surprise of this year. And I have The Right To by Chessie Prout. This is a nonfiction memoir about Chessie Prout, who gets sexually assaulted. She is raped in high school, and it's kind of the aftermath of what happens. And I did not expect to just fall in love with this book. It's not written like a typical memoir. It is written as a story, and I absolutely love the format of it. At the end of each little section, she has pictures, and so that you can actually see what's going on, and it just helps you feel more connected to the story. I think this is an amazing book that everyone should read at some point in their lives. However, there are a lot of trigger warnings in this book. Rape, sexual assault, abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, stress, anxiety, pretty much anything you could think of. There is a trigger warning in this book for it. However, I absolutely love this book. 5 out of 5. People outside are making weird noises. I don't know what's going on. The next one is a new favorite author. This can be a new to you author or a debut author. Again, I have 2 authors for this one. The first one is Tomi Adeyemi. After reading this first book, I knew that I was really going to love this author, and then after I read the second one, that was it. Absolutely loved it. We'll pick up anything that she writes in the future. And the second book is Riley Sager. I recently read Lock Every Door. Absolutely fell in love with it. This is the kind of thriller that I was really looking for, and I cannot wait to pick up all of his other books. The next 2 kind of go together. So It is a new fictional crush and a new favorite character. These are in the same book that is Confess by Colleen Hoover. My new fictional crush is Owen, and I loved him. I've read a few books by Colleen Hoover, and I agree that many of them are problematic. Now, while this one is not perfect, I feel like this relationship is the least problematic, and I absolutely loved our love interest in this book. He was so heartwarming and gentle, and he just loved his family to the point of, oh gosh, I can't say that because that will spoil it. You just know that he cares about his family more than anything else, and that he loves our main character Auburn enough to basically give her up because of another spoiler. I can't, like, this book is so good. Love Owen. Owen is such a sweetheart. Absolutely love him. My new favorite character in this book is actually our main character Auburn's roommate. Her name is Emery, and she is everything that any person should want in a roommate and a best friend. Absolutely loved her because they're actually co-workers, and so they are new roommates, but they weren't actually friends before they became roommates. So they're kind of new to each other. They're still getting to know each other, but she's so protective of Auburn, and she like makes her call at midnight every night, or she's gonna send the police after her. She warns her about this other guy that she doesn't like. I mean, it's just, I loved Emery. I thought she was so full of sass, but she stood up for herself and for Auburn and was there through it all, and I loved her. The next is a book that made you cry, and I have 3. I apparently have cried a lot recently, and I've talked about all of them, so I'm just going to briefly mention them. The first one is I Have the Right To. I cried so many times in that book. The next one is Confess. I sobbed and sobbed at the end of this book. Oh my gosh, this made me cry so hard. And the last one is actually Children of Virtue and Vengeance. I fell in love with these characters. After book 1, I was kind of invested in the characters, but then book 2, I became extremely invested in the characters. And then when people started dying, I just started crying. The next one, I think it's like number 9, 10, I don't know what number it is a book that made you happy. For this one, I actually have a manga, which is called, I don't know if it's Bakuman. I think it's Bakuman. That's what I'm calling it. I know it has a anime that I've watched some of, but this is actually volume 4. I haven't read volume 4 yet, but I've read 1, 2, and 3, and this one was the one that was sitting out, so I grabbed it. But the main characters in this book are just so heartwarming, and I love them, and they just want to become manga artists, and they just love each other, and their friendship is so sweet, and I just love it. This is just such a heartwarming series, and I highly recommend it. I guess I could tell you what it's about. So it is about our 2 main characters, Moritaka and Akito. Moritaka loves to draw manga. Akito wants to become a manga writer. So together they decide that they're going to create a manga and they're going to get it published. Moritaka is in love with this girl in the class, which is this girl here. She wants to become a voice actress. So they make a deal that when Moritaka's manga becomes an anime, she will become the voice actress on the anime, and then they will get married. It's just the sweetest, most heartwarming thing you've ever read, or I've ever read. You should read it, and then it will be the most heartwarming thing you've ever read, and we'll be in this together. The next category is the most beautiful cover that you bought or acquired this year. I actually have a few to show you because I have just so many beautiful covers. So I've got 7 Deadly Shadows by Courtney Alameda and Valen E. Metani. This one I got in a bookship box, so I don't really know what it's about. I believe it's about ghosts. It's about yokai demons. See, I know nothing. The next book that I have is We Are the Ants by Sean David Hutchinson. I just think this cover is so beautiful. And I got this because Kayla from Books and Lala and Gabby from Gabby Reads both love this book. And I also have Crown of Feathers by Nikki Palpreto. Again, these aren't all the beautiful covers. I just picked 3 of them. But look how gorgeous. Oh, I just love beautiful covers. I'm shallow like that sometimes. And the final question category topic is, what are your goals for the rest of the year? Well, I'm just kidding. I actually have some very specific goals. So I have some things happening. I have a couple of reading challenges. Actually, I'm getting ready to start one tomorrow, and I'm very excited about it, but I'm not going to tell you what it's about. A goal that I can tell you about is that if you have ever watched Emma from Drinking by My Shelf, every month she does Balancing the Books, where she talks about all the books that she's hauled versus all the books that she's read, and every month she wants her read books to be higher than her hauled books. And I also want to do something like that because I would love to get my TBR shelf down to like 20 books at most. Right now it's like in the 60s. So it's not impossible, but I'm working on it. I've read a lot of books this month, so we're getting there. I have some horror books that I'm really excited to read. Some readathons that I'm planning. I guess I could tell what's one book that I really want to read. Oh, I know. My next book, the immediate next book that I'm planning to read is Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I'm going to do a whole reading vlog on this one. I'm very excited about it. That was the mid-year book Freakout tag. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like. I would love to know some of the books that you're excited to read for the rest of the year, because like I said, I don't keep up with releases that are coming out. So if you have any books that you're really excited that are coming out the rest of the year, you should let me know so that I can check them out. As always, I hope you get all the words and happy reading. Bye!